to faculty, students, veterans, visitors, my fellow comrades in arms, it is a great honor to speak this morning to you on Veterans Day. I feel especially humbled to stand before you today, as did your beloved teacher, who you referred to as Captain, a fine Marine officer, a fine man. What do you think when you hear the word debt? Maybe you think of a car loan or a credit card loan. Something has to be paid off rather quickly, and you can certainly get a lot of information about a national debt. But I wonder if any of you have thought about the great debt, the debt America owes to its veterans. Marine Sergeant Dakota Meyer is one whom America owes an enormous debt. Humble by nature, heroic by deed. Sergeant Meyer drove a Humvee into an Afghan valley that he knew was heavily populated with well-armed enemy insurgents. Outgunned and outnumbered, Sergeant Meyer and Staff Sergeant Juan Rodriguez Chavez made multiple trips to that ambush site, killing insurgents as Sergeant Meyer manned a turret machine gun. Disregarding serious shrapnel wounds that he received, Sergeant Meyer left his vehicle several times searching for pinned-down friends and coalition forces. He found his friends and comrades shot to death, but with the assistance of Army Captain Will Swenson, Sergeant Meyer carried their bodies and gear away from the village. As he received his well-deserved Medal of Honor from President Obama, Sergeant Meyer requested that his fallen colleagues be remembered. They include First Lieutenant Michael Johnson, Gunnery Sergeant Edwin Johnson, Staff Sergeant Aaron Kennefick, Hospitalman 3rd Class James Layton, Sergeant 1st Class Kenneth Westbrook. We salute them. Sergeant Meyer did not leave them, and neither must we ever forget their sacrifice. We also today honor more than 1 million American men and women who have given their lives for their country since our nation's founding. Our debt to these heroes can never be repaid, but our gratitude and respect must last forever. For our veterans, their love of country is important enough to freeze in sub-zero temperatures, bathe in tropical heat. They're willing to risk suffering serious injury, the loss of limbs, and even if necessary, the loss of their lives. They are asked to endure long separations from families, sometimes more than once. They may miss the birth of children and the interruption of civilian careers. And the sacrifice is not just theirs alone. Some of you here know the sacrifice a family endures. Military spouses face frequent address changes and a disproportionate share of being the only parent. Children experience changes in schools, separation from friends, and most of all, uncertainty. The uncertainty is, will Dad or Mom return home from this combat tour? The American Legion's National Commander is Fang Wang, retired Chief Warrant Officer of Chinese-American descent. He said this to the Congress: "It is not the nature of America's warriors to proclaim, warriors endure. Warriors make do with less. Warriors finish the job no matter how hard, no matter what is asked. Warriors need advocates, and that's why the American Legion, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the Disabled American Veterans, the American vets, the Vietnam now, the Iraqi and other war veterans are gathering together, and they're here to serve veterans, their families, and their communities. Veterans need each other, but more importantly, our country needs our veterans. On the American Legion side, with equivalent programs in the VFW and DAV, the American Legion shows its support for American heroes through its Family Support Network, its Legacy Scholarship Fund, Operation Comfort Warriors, temporary financial assistance, and a National Emergency Fund, just to name a few of our programs. And recently, they have added Woke Up Home for homeless female veterans in Milwaukee. Our auxiliary units from these various branches also actively support these issues. We are told that there will always be wars and rumors of war. It's through the sacrifice of veterans that in war, slaves have been freed, dictators have been toppled, terrorism has been checked, and our freedom has been preserved. It is often said that without our veterans, Americans could be speaking Russian, German, or even perhaps Japanese. Regardless of which view you take of alternative history, we do know that without our veterans, America would not be America. I have already mentioned what the American Legion does to support our veterans, but what about others? Companies should understand it's a smart business to hire veterans. And when members of the Guard and Reserves deploy, it's smart American business to ensure that their civilian careers are waiting for them upon their return. But more importantly, what about you? You can show your support by donating to a veterans program. Perhaps you'd like to visit a veterans hospital, or even by saying a simple thank you to veterans you meet. Maybe one of them is sitting next to you today. In these tough economic times, some of you may have experienced the loss of a home. Did you know that a greater proportion of veterans are homeless than in the civilian population? Far too often, yesterday's honored hero in a crisp uniform with shiny medals is today's street person wearing dirty, tattered clothes. This is hardly the thanks of a grateful nation. Fortunately, veterans don't ask for much. Benefits are a mere drop in the bucket compared to the financial and human cost of war. Nonetheless, we still owe them. In 1979, author Tom Wolfe wrote a book about the first American astronauts. It was called The Right Stuff. As heroic veterans, they certainly earned the distinction, but my friends, I would not limit that title to that group only. Anyone who has honorably worn a United States military uniform has the right stuff. Remember that. Next time you see a homeless person on the street, a man in a wheelchair, a difficult co-worker who may be experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, perhaps some returned veteran who is experiencing that in your own household. Historians have said that Dwight Eisenhower is prouder of being a soldier than he was of being president. Although few veterans ever reach high military rank, anyone who has served in the military can share the pride of being part of a band of brothers, and now a band of brothers and sisters, who have forged a bond that will last far beyond their tour of duty. I want to share this little bit from a friend of mine by the name of Henry Oswicki, who was in A Company 2nd Battalion of the 12th Infantry Regiment, was wounded 4 times. He says this: "We are brothers. We know who we are. We fought over and walked the same ground. I am awed by your courage. I am lifted by our brotherhood. I find peace in your company, and I feel safe when you are near." What single accomplishment of the most successful businessman can top the decisive action he took on Iwo Jima, or the siege of Khe Sanh in Vietnam, or the invasion of Baghdad in Iraq to save the lives of others while serving in the Marines? What other action can a man or a woman take when they've laid down their life for a fellow soldier, sailor, Marine, or airman? Yes, my friends, nothing they ever do will eclipse their military service, and they do have the right stuff. Fewer than 10% of Americans can claim the title veteran. And while the great military phrase, uncommon valor was a common virtue. It's had been so often repeated that it risks becoming a cliche. It is no less true. In 1789, George Washington made this statement: "The willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional as to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their company." We must ask ourselves as a nation, are we serving veterans even half as well as they have served us? As we honor our 23 million living men and women, veterans from the greatest generation to the latest generation, let us never forget this debt that is owed. No government commission or single dollar amount can adequately repay what has been given to all of us throughout our nation's history. Through their blood, their service, their sacrifice, veterans have given us freedom, security, and the greatest nation on earth. It is impossible to put a price on that. We must remember them. We must appreciate them. And above all, we must remember the tremendous debt we owe them. I think your captain would be honored to know that you participated today. God bless you all for being here. God bless our veterans. God bless America.